3 years ago, my sister defended the man who followed me into a restaurant bathroom and grabbed me. She called it a misunderstanding. I called it what it was: assault. We stopped talking after that. I told myself I'd moved on, that some people are just too blind to love the truth. But last month, at her wedding, that same man struck again, only this time she was the victim. My name is Violet Carter, and for years I believed silence kept peace. Now I know silence only feeds monsters. The night my sister's perfect white wedding turned into a public nightmare, everything I'd buried clawed its way back. Every denial, every lie, every "don't make a scene." Now she's divorced, in therapy, and drowning in guilt. And I'm finally ready to tell the story of how my sister's fairy tale became my final warning. When I first met Liam, my boyfriend, I thought life had finally steadied. He was kind, dependable, the kind of man who listened more than he spoke. My family adored him, especially my sister, Sophie. She used to joke, "If you ever get bored of him, send him my way." We laughed, back then. We laughed at everything. Then Sophie met Lucas Dalton, a man who seemed perfect on paper, charming, wealthy, and raised in a family that smiled too easily. A few months after they started dating, she invited me to dinner, saying it would be a fun double date. When I arrived, Lucas's older brother Adrian was already there, leaning against the bar, watching me like he already knew my name. He flirted aggressively, brushing my shoulder when he passed, leaning too close when he spoke. I told him I had a boyfriend, hoping it would end. It didn't. During dinner, he found every excuse to touch my hand or whisper something grossly familiar. When I went to the restroom to escape, I heard footsteps behind me. The door hadn't even shut when his hand hit the wall beside my face. His breath was hot, his smile thin and triumphant. "Relax, Violet," he murmured. "You wanted this." I shoved him away with all my strength and ran. My pulse thundered as I locked myself inside a stall, hearing his low chuckle fade into the hallway. That night, I called Sophie, shaking. She listened in silence, then said, "Adrian told me you misunderstood him. He said you were flirting." I remember staring at my phone, waiting for her to laugh, to say she was joking. But she didn't. Instead, she sighed and added, "Don't make this into drama, Vi. He's Lucas's brother." That was the moment something inside me cracked, not loud, but deep. A fracture that would take years to shatter completely. 3 years passed, and somehow we pretended nothing had ever happened. Adrian still appeared at birthdays, family dinners, Christmas gatherings, always too close, always too friendly. I learned to avoid him with quiet precision. Never alone in a hallway, never without Liam nearby. Sophie acted like the past was a rumor that would die if ignored long enough. Then one morning, a cream-colored envelope arrived in the mail. Sophie and Lucas, together forever. Inside was a note, handwritten in gold ink. "Be my bridesmaid, Violet. I can't do this without you." My stomach twisted. I wanted to say no, to remind her what she'd chosen to forget. But then I heard Mom's voice in my head, the same line she'd used my whole life. "Family isn't about comfort, it's about loyalty." So I said yes. A week later, Sophie called again, her voice sugary but sharp. "Oh, and one more thing, you'll be walking down the aisle with Adrian. You two will look amazing together in photos." My heart stopped. "Absolutely not," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "You know what he did. I'll walk with Julian or Nick, anyone else." She laughed nervously. "Lucas wants his brother included. Don't overreact. It's just a ceremony." "It's my boundary," I snapped. Her tone hardened instantly. "Then maybe you shouldn't be part of the wedding at all." When I told Liam, he looked at me with quiet fury. "She's punishing you for surviving, Violet." At our next family dinner, I brought it up with everyone there. Mom, Dad, my brothers. I thought maybe someone would speak up, maybe someone would say this was insane. Instead, Sophie burst into tears, shouting that I was jealous and trying to ruin her marriage. Mom started cleaning dishes loudly, pretending not to hear. Dad mumbled something about keeping peace. My brothers just stared, caught between love and disbelief. That night, Sophie sent me a text. "If you bring Liam to the wedding, you're no longer my bridesmaid." I stared at the screen, numb. My sister had once been my best friend, the girl who braided my hair and whispered secrets under our blanket fort. Now, she was the woman defending the man who had once cornered me and threatening to erase me from her perfect day. Days turned into weeks, and Sophie's texts stayed unanswered in my phone, a bruise I kept reopening just to check if it still hurt. It did. Every time. Family group chats grew colder. My mother sent polite reminders about dress fittings and floral colors, pretending nothing had happened. My father stopped calling altogether. Only Julian, my twin brother, checked in. "You okay?" he'd ask. I'd lie every time. Then came the messages not from Sophie, but from relatives. Aunt May. "She only gets married once, Violet. Can't you let the past stay buried?" Cousin Isabel. "People make mistakes. Don't ruin her big day over some misunderstanding." Even my father wrote, "Sometimes peace costs pride, sweetheart. It's a fair trade." But what about the peace inside me? What about the part that still woke at night hearing the click of a bathroom lock? One evening, I agreed to meet Sophie for coffee, hoping maybe foolishly that she'd changed her mind. When I arrived, she was already sitting, posture perfect, nails pink, the engagement ring catching the light like a knife. I barely sat down before she said, "Violet, please don't start. I know what this is about. I just need you to understand," I began, my voice trembling. "Adrian didn't misunderstand. He followed me. Stop." She raised her hand, eyes darting around the cafe. "Do not say that here." "Why not?" "Because it's embarrassing," she hissed. 3 years, Violet. 3. You can't still be living in that moment. "I'm not living in it," I said quietly. "I'm trying not to drown in it." She exhaled sharply, stirring her coffee. "You're making me choose between you and Lucas's family. Don't do that." "No," I replied. "You're choosing between your sister's safety and your fiancé's brother's reputation." Her jaw tightened. "You always have to make yourself the victim." The words sliced through me. Victim. She said it like it was a performance, not a wound. When I got home, Liam was waiting on the porch. I didn't even speak, just collapsed into his chest. "She called it a victim complex," I whispered. Liam's hand clenched at my back. "Then maybe it's time you stop trying to fix people who'd rather see you broken." That night, I sat alone at my desk, staring at a blank page before finally writing. "Dear Sophie, if protecting myself makes me the villain in your story, so be it. I won't apologize for surviving." I never sent it, but for the first time in years, I felt like I'd finally said something loud enough for me to hear. I didn't plan to start a war. I just wanted peace, the kind that doesn't come wrapped in guilt. But by the next week, it was clear that in my family, silence was the only acceptable language. Mom called one night while I was making dinner with Liam. Her voice was strained, almost rehearsed. "Sweetheart, can't you just let Sophie have her day? You don't need to bring up old things." "Old things?" I repeated. "Mom, he assaulted me." A pause. Then, softly, "It was a misunderstanding, Violet. People change." "No," I said flatly. "He doesn't change. You just stop seeing what he is." She sighed. "If you don't come to the wedding, people will talk." "Let them," I said, and hung up. The next morning, Julian and Nick showed up at my apartment with takeout and cheap wine. They looked tired, not from work, but from the weight of existing in our family. "Write her one last letter," Julian said, setting the bag on the table. "Then you'll know you tried everything." I spent hours staring at the cursor before typing. "Sophie, I love you. You're my sister, but I will not walk beside the man who hurt me. I will not celebrate while the people who ignored my pain toast champagne. This isn't revenge, it's self-preservation. If you ever decide to see the truth, I'll be here. Until then, I choose peace, even if it means distance." I hit send before I could change my mind. 2 days later, the reply came. But it wasn't from Sophie. It was from Adrian. "You're pathetic. Obsessed. If you show up anywhere near the wedding, I'll have you removed. Stop embarrassing yourself." My hands shook as I read it, fury crawling up my throat like fire. He was taunting me, confident that Sophie and Lucas's silence would shield him. "Liam," I whispered, showing him the message. He read it once, then again, jaw tightening. "You're done trying to earn their decency," he said quietly. "They've already traded it for comfort." That night, I deleted the family group chat. For years, I'd kept a seat at a table that only served shame. It was time to leave it empty. The morning of Sophie's wedding felt strange, too still, too quiet, like the air before a thunderstorm. I woke up early out of habit, half expecting a message asking me to come after all. None came. At 10:15 a.m., Julian texted a photo of himself in his groomsman suit. "Wish you were here, Vi. Feels wrong without you." I typed back, "Just keep an eye on him, please." He didn't need me to say who. By 3:27 p.m., the stillness broke. My phone buzzed violently on the counter. Julian's name flashed. I answered, heart racing. "Violet, it's happening!" he hissed. Voices clattered in the background. Adrian cornered one of the servers in the hallway. Lucas's cousin saw everything. The catering manager's threatening to pull his whole staff unless they kick him out. My knees nearly gave out. "Is the girl okay?" "She's shaken up. Isabel's with her. But Sophie, she's pretending nothing happened. She told everyone it was a misunderstanding. Again. Of course she did." 30 minutes later, another call from Nick, breathless and furious. Isabel stood up during the toasts, told the entire room what happened. Half the guests left. Lucas's mom started screaming. Sophie slapped her. The photographer quit. "It's chaos, Vi." I could hear shouting through the speaker chairs, scraping, glasses breaking. Somewhere, someone cried. Then, silence. At 4:46 p.m., my father called. His voice was hollow. "The wedding's over," he said quietly. "They kicked everyone out. Violet, I owe you an apology." "For what?" I whispered. "For not believing you. When that girl was crying, when the manager threatened to call the police suddenly, I heard you all over again." I closed my eyes, pressing the phone to my chest. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Outside, rain began to fall, slow and deliberate, as if the sky had been holding its breath too. When I finally spoke, my voice shook. "Dad, where's Sophie?" "With Lucas. She's hysterical. Your mother's with her." "And Adrian?" He hesitated. "Gone. Security escorted him out. But Violet, everyone knows now. Everything's coming out." After he hung up, I sat at the kitchen table with Liam, staring at nothing. The storm outside beat against the glass, thunder rolling somewhere far away. "She still tried to protect him," I murmured. Liam squeezed my hand. "And you tried to protect her. The difference is you didn't lie." For the first time in 3 years, I didn't feel crazy. I didn't feel dramatic. I just felt free. But freedom, I would soon learn, was only the beginning of the reckoning. That night, sleep never came. The images replayed over and over in my mind, guests screaming, the girl crying, Sophie's perfect world cracking open in front of everyone. Around 2 a.m., my phone lit up again. A number I didn't recognize. "Is this Violet Carter?" a trembling voice asked. "Yes. Who is this?" "This is Emily, the server from your sister's wedding. Isabel gave me your number." Her voice broke. He grabbed me, Violet. I tried to pull away, and he just wouldn't let go." "My manager wants me to file a report, but Adrian's brother already called the catering company, threatening to sue for defamation if I talk." Liam, listening beside me, clenched his fists. "That's witness intimidation," he said, loud enough for her to hear. "They can't silence you." Emily's voice wavered. "Would you come with me to the police station tomorrow? I don't want to go alone." "Yes," I said instantly. "You're not alone anymore." The next morning, we met outside the precinct. Emily looked small in her oversized sweater, her hands shaking as she held a cup of coffee she wasn't drinking. Her manager, Victor, stood beside her, a man in his 50s, eyes lined with exhaustion but burning with quiet rage. "Adrian's lawyer called me 3 times already," he muttered. "Tried to buy silence. Not this time." Inside, the detective asked careful questions. When it was my turn to speak, my voice steadied in ways it never had before. I told them everything, every word, every touch, every time someone told me to forget. For the first time, someone actually wrote it down. No one said, "Are you sure?" When we walked out, the autumn air felt colder but cleaner. Across the parking lot, A man was waiting, Marco Keller, one of Adrian's old fraternity brothers. I heard about what happened, he said. I should have said something years ago. He's always been like this. We just looked the other way. He looked down, ashamed. Not anymore. The dam had broken. Within days, more people came forward. The photographer from the wedding, 2 women from Adrian's college, even a guest who'd overheard him bragging about making Violet squirm. The Daltons tried to spin the story, but truth travels faster when it's finally unchained. When the court hearing came, Sophie didn't look at me once. She sat beside Lucas, pale, shaking, her hands clasped too tightly. Adrian, smug as ever, smirked at me across the room until the judge spoke. The charges weren't perfect: sexual harassment, unwanted physical contact, disorderly conduct, but they were something. When the verdict came down guilty with 1-year probation and mandatory counseling, Adrian's smirk vanished. As they escorted him out, Sophie broke. She stood, shaking, whispering, "No, no, this can't be happening." Lucas grabbed her arm, but she pulled away. For the first time, she looked at me not as the jealous sister, not as the problem, but as the person who had been right all along. Her eyes filled with tears, then shame. Outside the courthouse, reporters shouted questions. I ignored them. Liam wrapped his arm around me, and for once, I didn't flinch. That night, sitting in our apartment surrounded by silence, I realized something profound. Justice doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, steady, quiet, undeniable. Sophie's fairy tale had burned down to ash, and in those ashes, the truth finally breathed. Weeks passed, and the noise around Adrian's case slowly faded into whispers. The tabloids moved on, but my family couldn't. Thanksgiving came and went with empty chairs and unopened messages. Then, one gray afternoon, a letter arrived, Sophie's handwriting. I almost threw it away. Instead, I sat on the kitchen floor and read, "Violet, I don't know where to begin." I told myself I was protecting my future, but I was really protecting my denial. I laughed when Lucas showed me photos Adrian took of you at our engagement party. I said you liked attention. That was the moment I chose my fairy tale over you. I found messages between them, Adrian bragging, Lucas encouraging him. I can't describe what it's like realizing you married into rot. I'm leaving him. I'm in therapy. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I just need you to know. I finally see what you saw. By the time I finished, my hands were trembling. Liam knelt beside me, reading the tears on my face. "She's finally saying the words," he murmured. "Too late," I whispered, folding the letter. She let him touch my life, then called it my imagination. The next day, Mom called for the first time since the trial. "Your sister's home," she said softly. "She's not well." "Neither am I," I replied. Mom hesitated. She found proof via bank transfers, payments Lucas made to other women, threats to lawyers, and pictures, ones you didn't know existed. A cold numbness spread through me. "Pictures?" Her voice cracked. "Of you. From that night at the engagement party. You didn't even see him take them." I dropped the phone. Liam caught me before I hit the floor. Sophie sent another letter 3 days later. "I'm divorcing Lucas. The police have everything. I told them everything. Adrian wasn't acting alone. I laughed at evil because it came wrapped in charm, and you paid the price for it. I'm not asking for redemption. I just hope someday you find peace, even if I'm never part of it." I read those words under the lamplight, the ink trembling like a confession too heavy to hold. For the first time, I didn't feel rage, only exhaustion. "Will you answer her?" Liam asked. I shook my head. "Not yet. Maybe not ever. Some wounds don't want closure, they just want air." That night, I slept through until morning, dreamless for the first time in years. The storm had passed, but it left behind a coastline I barely recognized, quiet, raw, and mine again. A full year passed before I realized what healing actually looked like. It wasn't forgiveness, or some dramatic moment of closure. It was waking up one morning and not feeling the weight of their names in my chest. Liam proposed quietly one Sunday. No cameras, no crowd, just the smell of pancakes and sunlight spilling across our kitchen counter. The ring was simple, delicate, almost shy. "Marry me," he said. Not because we need perfect families, just because we survived them. I said yes. We held the ceremony in my parents' backyard, surrounded by people who had stayed when it mattered. Julian stood beside Liam as best man. Nick walked me down the aisle. Isabel read a passage about truth, voice trembling but proud. Mom cried through the entire thing. Dad didn't stop holding her hand. Sophie wasn't there. But a week before the wedding, she sent a small card, no return address, just my name in her looping handwriting. I wish you the kind of peace I used to call weakness. I wish you love that never asks for your silence. And I hope one day, you'll see that your strength saved more than just yourself. I kept the card in a drawer, beside the engagement ring box and a copy of my police statement. Artifacts of pain and proof. During the reception, as dusk melted into gold, Julian whispered, "You did it, Vi. You built something honest." I looked at Liam laughing with Nick across the garden, the soft hum of voices, the gentle wind rustling the tablecloths, so simple, so real. "I didn't build it alone," I said, "but I had to choose myself first." When the music slowed, I stood barefoot in the grass, feeling the earth solid beneath me, the opposite of fear. I thought of Sophie somewhere out there, piecing herself back together. For the first time, I didn't wish for her return. I wished for her freedom. As the last song played, Liam slipped his hand into mine. "Still think you ruined her wedding?" he teased softly. I smiled. "No, I think I saved someone else's, because sometimes the real, happily ever after, isn't about the person you marry, it's about the version of yourself you finally become."